Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So, guys, I was just going through Gmail, yes, Gmail, government mail, and get a notification from YouTube, copyright infringement. Of course, they've been hitting hard. It feels like there's a new wave of tyranny going on. Another big push to stifle voices, and so EEARTS is definitely suffering. Could see it, and again, the way they even tell you now, they used to be just something you would guess and say, I know somehow they're limiting exposure, but now they even tell you that your video will have limited exposure and even maybe blocked in certain countries. Yeah, this is part of the times that we're in. Canada, again, Canada is gone full on Orwellian 1984 with, again, certain topics are not going to be allowed for discussion. It's very, very disconcerting, and yet here we are. It's rolling forward. We have more and more people waking up and knowing what's going on, and yet it's still rolling forward.
Right, what's rolling forward is the illusion, the continued illusion that we really have freedoms. We really have only what they will allow us to have, and that's what's making itself known. And they've even passed laws. I think we watched something about 4 months ago where if you do video on like someplace like a national forest or somewhere you're not supposed to, and say you did it before that law was passed, they can make laws in retrograde now, or if that's the right word.
Yeah, and
retroactive.
Force you to remove them or just take
or
them.
Fine you.
Or fine you, yeah. Again, we understood that, and this was a topic from about 3 years ago, I want to say, maybe even more, that at some point in time, the way that most people do videos, or many people do, and they'll show a news article and then, comment on it, that's going to go goodbye, because as soon as you show the article, they're going to be able to hit you with things and censor you or copyright infringe you. Again, it is totally about starving people out. And I know there's some people that watch the channels on a regular basis, but then we're saying, oh, but I can't afford to do Patreon. And, the reality is, the probably 80% of the time with Evolutionary, every video we did there, again, there was no ad revenue, no recomps. So, again, how many people can afford to work for free indefinitely, especially when they are hitting you in other ways. And again, the ad revenue that we get is 1/10 what Evolutionary did at its peak. 1/10. And again, we would, and not to just harp on that, because it's not just us, it's everybody out there. It's everybody that is not pushing the global corporate agenda. And so you're seeing more channels have done what we just did, and been doing it for years, many of them that we know. I mean, like David's always had his Patreon going, Adapt 2030, so many, Rex, most, I think. Or they take on sponsorships where you're listening to an infomercial for most of the time, and we don't have the stomach for that. We don't want to push product. We've had, God, I can't, hundreds. Every day, there's other people that say, we want to sponsor you. We'll pay you $1,500 for so-and-so, commercial. But I have no interest in that. None. Zero. And, again, it's because it's the system. To get off of this at 4:44 into this video, met an absolutely lovely individual yesterday for the second time, 82-year-old country boy, that has, lived in the deep South all his life, and is a wonderful gentleman, truly. And it stunned me how awake he was. This is not somebody that is following all the newspapers, and this is a country boy. This is somebody that's got skills, that can comfortably live, when the grid goes off, has a deep understanding of self-sufficiency and all. And yet, boy, very, very awake, understood exactly what's going on. And even agreed that, yeah, it's inevitable that they are opening us up for a complete takeover. The only thing is that he thinks that we have a little bit more time than we think, and I should say I think. I won't speak for Cindy, because I'll let her speak for herself. When I asked him, have you lost anybody in your life to what we all know is claiming a lot of people. Let's just say the fix.
Yeah, the fix.
The fix. The solution, right? The solution. And he told me right off the bat, yeah, I've lost 14 friends and family members,
Including his wife.
And that broke my heart. This is a really nice, gentle soul that he reminded me a lot of talking to my mother, but an awake version of my mother, more awake than my mom was, as he was from about the same, he's about a decade younger than my mom. But, he really understood his history. We were talking history. We were talking all the parallels between, being in 1930s Germany and being here, anywhere here today, anywhere on the planet today, because again, this is a global fourth REICH that's coming out. It's global. And the only way they can implement that is through that WW hashtag number 3, with a certain side coming out on top, so we could end up with that system. Is it possible that there would be a level of mutually assured self-destruction on both sides? Yeah, possibly something like that. Any way you look at it, though, they're going to implement the systems that we've seen in the fine dining ware country. As Cindy points out, and Rama's giving me kisses, they don't like it when we say the CHINA word now, because they're already in charge. They are already in control, and it's obvious. I mean, again, buying up border property, all these LAB -S's that we keep spotting. Yeah, buying up land, police stations all over the globe. This has been so telegraphed, as we've said. And so what does this do? And again, I want to go back. 14 people in a small area. I mean, where we're talking about is some of the least population dense areas in the U.S. outside of the desert zones. Very, very not population dense. He knows 14 people firsthand. This is what's wearing on people. Cindy was picking up a heaviness out there. She feels the sadness and maybe even the desperation and depression that has set in, because it does feel in many cases that it's hopeless. But this is exactly what they want you to think. Because again, what this is the death knell of the system. The system will end, and they got to get everybody to jump into their lifeboats instead of taking, the path to freedom. They want you to jump into the lifeboats, which are still tethered to the ship that's going down, are going to be dragged down. And I think that's a pretty good analogy.
It's a very good analogy. And the energy that I've been picking up today, actually, in the last few days, is so heavy, and it's so sad. People just really feel like they're at their wits' end, and the collective consciousness keeps dropping into these sorrowful type of places where they don't feel like there is anything that they can do, where they feel totally and completely powerless, and they're watching their loved ones, their pets, um, beings just left and right that are so close to them fall away out of the 3D, and it's truly heartbreaking. It's crushing. It's difficult. It's something that takes some time to heal from. But then things are also so busy. There's so many changes in the world that people need to keep track of. So you're not able to really sit with it in its entirety, or maybe you're just not ready. And this is kind of how this is so deliberate, you guys. It makes me so sad. It's so very deliberate in the way they're doing it. They want people to feel just powerless, and then they're going to come along galloping along with some sort of cure, and it's going to look like it's coming from somewhere else. It's another favorite game they just love to play. They put something out there in the mainstream, and it has ulterior motives, even though it might tug at the heartstrings, and it will tug at the heartstrings, and it will trigger people. It has ulterior motives for those. So we can never think that anything that makes it fairly big on the mainstream is anything other than something that the controllers want to utilize out there. So it's just, we really have to focus in on ourselves and take a look at ourselves and where we're at emotionally and physically, because to help other people, really, you have to take care of yourself. That's the most you can do for any other person on the planet, is to take care of you and get yourself in good shape, because then you're available for others.
Yeah, absolutely. Ground and root. Again, get out into nature, unplug. Yesterday, I overdid a little bit working, getting prepared to put 2 greenhouses up. And I wasn't used to being out working like 8 hours. And I don't know, the feels likes are 10 something or 11 something. So, but, again, it felt so good being outside for so long, surrounded by the trees. At the same time, there was something that I had been missing for so long, even though, we are in now a very, very peaceful place in comparison to where we were, and in comparison to most of the masses. It can't underestimate the power of just being simply out in nature. When we're doing our mantras and when we're doing our qigong, we got done with a half hour of qigong standing, and what do we notice? There's birds
And
everywhere.
butterflies.
Birds and butterflies
everywhere.
everywhere, because they recognize the energy, they recognize the mother. And again, that mother aspect, the divine feminine is really, it's everything we see. It's the totality of creation. And again, that's something we've been cut off from purposefully. And that is part of why we don't live as long in these ages, besides the fact that the food has so little nutrition, and maybe calorically dense. But again, you end up with a lot of people that are obese or overweight and suffering from things like diabetes and all sorts of issues, because they're not getting proper nutrition. And the food is one of the major reasons why the life expectancy is not what it should be. Everything is a distortion in this age. Everything is a distortion. And yet we have people that we know are totally, they're Pied Pipers. There are so many Pied Pipers leading humanity off the cliff. And they're doing it willfully, in many cases gleefully. And again, I think most of them understand, at least to a degree, what they're doing. And I think that hits the rest of us like, how could you possibly do that? How could you possibly sell out the rest of humans in such a way. And this is part of that great split. Again, the reason why we use the earth splitting from itself in EEARTS. It's because, yeah, ultimately we are going to go different routes. And we're going to have to make a decision. It's that simple. You're going to have to make a decision between the organic and the inorganic, between, following the ways of nature and the creator and following the ways of the technocracy.
Yeah, and it's going to be some cases are going to be obvious, and some cases are going to be not so obvious, because there's a lot of traps out there. There's a lot of people that are wanting to do the right thing, that are doing the right thing, but they're still finding themselves locked into the system in some way, shape, or form. You know, working on yourself, learning to be your authentic self, and not following so many mainstream things. I mean, the food is critical, really. The food that opens so many doors and it closes so many doors when it comes to being authentic with yourself. I would say food is like the number one issue. And isn't that what they're focused on now, across the globe? It's focusing on the food in some way, shape, or form. So we really have to watch what we put in your bodies, because that turns into our chi, that turns into spirit, and our spirit is what spreads itself across the land. And remembering whatever you eat, it turns into that energy.
Absolutely. So, you have another drone attack on the capital of Russia. And you have Russia coming out and directly saying the N weapons could be used at any time if this continues. Now, again, we understand the Galactics has said they won't allow that, but again, they will simulate it, absolutely. There are other weapons out there, from rods of God to laser technologies to sonic weapons to things we just don't know and we don't comprehend. The true power structure, has used technology to literally destroy worlds. Literally destroy worlds. Again, we're talking about technology that truly is more akin to what you see in Star Wars. Now, that happened as the escalation of this horrible assault on the natural order of things was raging in these wars that are ancient. And, again, Star Wars starts saying a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Well, we could say the war started a long time ago, and does it rage in other galaxies? We haven't asked per se. It certainly is raging in this one. There is, too. What we've gotten from the guides before was, it seems also that some of these entities literally have bled in from a different universe. That does seem to be true. So is this really a war that, these entities, maybe they were in like an anti-universe, so to speak, where everything is upside down, dark, and twisted, and they've been able to infiltrate this universe. There are some things that we've gotten that would make that sound like that is part of the situation. What's going on right now? Again, what CONS piracy theory has been disproven? Write down a list to the right, write down a list of everyone that's been proven to the left. The column on the left is going to vastly exceed the right, because there's nothing in the right that's been disproven. Not that I'm aware of. Please share your thoughts and opinions on that as well, and hopefully they will allow those opinions to be seen. Yeah, but again, this is so much bigger than Earth. Earth is just one place amongst so many that this is occurring. And yes, when we talk about CERN, they are opening doorways. This totally is what they're doing. They're allowing in what we would call demonic entities into this reality. It very much. Again, if you want to use another movie analogy, think about the orcs. Think about Sauron, and again, how they destroy the trees and then utilize the trees to turn them into these beings that can be controlled. Again, they want to create a zombie apocalypse. They want, again, there to be no humanity left as we know it. And the humanity that we have now is, again, a more limited version than what we've had in the past. And we see that evidence in the second chromosome fusion and the DNA that has been turned off purposely through genetic manipulation. When you see all the abduction phenomenons, what's it all about? Gathering genetic material, testing for toxins in the tissue and the fluid samples. Again, this is all part of what they do. They are always trying to create the better slave, the better robot. They're not trying to create the ultimate race, like when we look at the Aryans, right, and the NAZIs in WW2. No, it's not about creating the perfect race. It's about perfect slave race with no willpower. This is why the NAZIs put fluoride in the water, and so does the U.S. Again, there are so many countries that won't take any food that is made here in the U.S. Again, that's GMO, but it's going the same route in China and all over the world. Pretty soon, all they're going to give you is that slop, whether it's Soylent Green, whether it's some sort of who knows what the heck, HE, not C, it is in that. And I know some of you guys pick up that and understand that too. They want to turn us into them because they are nothing but slaves to AI, and that's their ultimate goal.
It is, and it's so unfortunate, and there's so many decisions to make right now. So many things to decide, and all while everyone's going through some type of trauma, some type of grief, some type of thing where they have to process their emotions. So it's difficult, which step do you take and in what direction? And I think you should just keep asking yourself what's the most organic thing you could possibly do. And in that sense, you help yourself walk out of the matrix one baby step at a time.
Yeah, so please do join us on Heart's Home, and yeah, I would strongly again recommend learning some Vedic mantras. And I understand because of the conditioning, many people can change from Jesus to Yeshua in order to change the frequency a little bit, but still have a hard time calling in Narayani or Durga or any of these other Vedic quote unquote entities, which really are what we're talking about are higher vibrational beings that were our teachers in other ages. And again, they don't need us to worship them. When we call on them, it's like calling on a big brother and saying, hey bro, you have experience with rebuilding engines. What do I do here? I got to replace this head. The camshaft is an issue, or again, it could be a technical issue that there's an expert in computers that would understand. Again, these are experts in spiritual matters, and so when we reach out to them, we're just reaching out to experts in spiritual matters that've been where we are. They've done what we're doing, and they've moved past this point, perhaps in human years. Gosh, tens of thousands of eons ago. It's just, again, it's another option. But you can also just get out in nature and just feel the love that nature has for you. And that love is real. When you're doing things like meditating and qigong, and all of a sudden the birds come gathering, it shows you're doing something positive that's in alignment with the system. If you're driving down the street and you're blasting out some music that's at 440 hertz and very dissident, you're probably going to send the animals running. That's the system. It's so anti-nature. It's so anti-life.
Yeah, I'm ultimately it's about getting yourself grounded and centered so you can make the best decisions for you to strengthen you. and everyone around you gets stronger after that, as long as you're focused on yourself. Please don't forget that the best thing you can do for anyone else is focus on you.
Yes, and as Cindy has said so many times, you know, we can do our physical preps. We should, and thus this is why we will be working on 2 or 3 greenhouses and getting everything rolling. And yeah, we're behind schedule because we can't stop making videos, because our main purpose is to awaken and help as many to be as prepared as possible for these times. But above surviving physically, it's about soul growth. So again, do the spiritual work. The spiritual work has to be priority number 1, because again, the human life that we're experiencing is not our normal state. This is just a temporary state of being. This is a learning experience. This is school. So again, cultivate the spiritual side.
Indeed.
As always, guys, thanks for your support on Patreon and Ko-Fi. We couldn't do it without you. Much love. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.